Coming up on today's episode of the Real Lives podcast.
And we worked out which day the Forrest started his run on, which was September the 15th, 1979. And you can work that out from clues in the audio. And so it's September the 15th of 2016. I found myself in a barber shop in Mobile, Alabama. And I am walking down the streets in Sydney and I get a phone call from the head of Athletics Australia, who congratulates me for coming 10th in an IAAF gold race and asks me, did I know what that meant? And I was like, well, it's going to be on telly, isn't it? You know, I'm going to get my name in that list.
Yeah.
You know? And he goes, well, if you come 10th in an IAAF gold race, you qualify automatically for the Olympics. Going from Arkansas into Mississippi, I tore my quad getting into the RV one day. Just like an innocuous thing. I was like, next day I couldn't walk. Day after that, couldn't walk. When I say couldn't walk, I mean 30 foot to the toilet. Could not do it, had to hop. My only criteria for it was like, I wouldn't pay, I think I had like 70, 80 bucks was my pretty much maximum. Most of the time I'd aim for about 50, 60. And I just read the reviews. And if there was like no mentions of bed bugs in it, I'd be like, that's fine. I don't care about anything else. Yeah.
Now, Rob Pope, the guest of today's podcast, is one of my favourite guests of all time. I've been trying to get him on for months and months and months after a recommendation from a friend who told me about his story and said, oh, you know, you should maybe try and interview him. Never in a million years thought I would. And, you know, the fact I got to have a pint with the guy was incredible. Such a really nice guy, proper Scouser, and absolutely love spending the time with him that I did. And in this episode, we have a chat about his run across America, 5 times across America, the Forrest Gump run, which is crazy. We talk about some of the amazing people he met along the way, some of the horror stories he had from along the way, the budget he anticipated having and how much they were spending, and, you know, flying back and to from the UK to the US because of visa issues, and having, you know, finding out that he's going to be having a child midway through the run, moving to Australia, how he nearly ended up representing Australia at the Olympics, even though he has no Australian citizenship, which is wild, and many, many other things. So if you enjoyed today's episode, then remember to follow Rob and support him online. You can find his links down in the description below. And also make sure to support the podcast and this little dude sat next to me, because, you know, he needs feeding. So, yeah, you can support the podcast by subscribe, sharing, and following on all other social media platforms. So I would massively appreciate it if you could do that. And I hope you enjoy this episode with Rob Pope. I think, firstly, it's best to start off with thanking the White Horse, Walton, because they've, honestly, last minute called them this morning. They were like, yeah, no worries, accommodate you. So
I can't believe they've done it as well. Like, works out cool. There's a cool background.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame it's not open. Like, it sounds such a good pub.
I know, could have had a pint and everything, but, you know, but yeah, honestly, class little place, class little pub. So if you're ever in Walton, come over, try it out and all that. But yeah, Rob, thanks so much for coming on. Been trying to get it done a while, but yeah, we got there eventually, didn't we?
I'd like to pretend I was off running somewhere, but it wasn't anywhere that cool.
I mean, mate, you come in proper Forrest Gump fashion, 15k run, got yourself a meal deal, and then straight in with the hat on and everything. Like, honestly, love it. But yeah, if you want to start off with, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So, my name's Rob Pope, and I'm probably best known for becoming the first person to recreate Forrest Gump's run 5 times across America.
Has anyone done it since?
I don't think anyone's that stupid.
Yeah, because it's like, I was listening to, it was basically a friend of mine from Liverpool who I met while I was in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. I told him I had a podcast, and he was like, oh, you need to get this Rob Pope on. I was like, who's that? He was like, mate, just listen to his story. I had a listen. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I can't, like,
say hello to him when you see him next.
Yeah, and he got me onto you, and then obviously got this happening. So Where did it all start for you? Because to go and run 422 days across America is fucking wild. So where did everything start out?
You can probably pick a number of points during your life, but I may as well go with the one that works best for this, which is Melbourne. And so in 2012, I moved out to Australia to work with my girlfriend at the time. And I'd done running before, but that was at school, so up until I was about sort of 18. And then I just did the odd bit to keep fit while I was playing footy for the uni. And that's obviously soccer rather than AFL. And I actually thought about playing sort of footy when I moved to Australia, but I was 35 when I went. And it's the sort of age when if you get injured, you're sort of done for about 6 weeks then, like just with a little niggle. And then I stupidly even thought before I'd watched much of it, well, maybe I'll join an AFL team. And I watched that for about 10 seconds and I thought, no. I'll just become a Doggies fan instead. That was my AFL tip. So I joined a local athletics club, which is Western Athletics, based in Werribee.
Yeah.
And this has now had multiple Olympians. Morgan, Jack, Amy, Liam. So there's so many great runners from there. And I joined and got better. Just started training with people who I like, but some were almost as fast as me, some were a bit faster than me, and then you have this back and forth where you suddenly got faster than someone, but the person who was slower than you is now further on. And I got to a level where I got picked to run for Victoria in the Australian Marathon Championships in Sydney in 2015. And so it was cool because it was the first elite race briefing I'd ever been in. So they're telling you about the tight corners and where the drink stations are and where you put your special dedicated drinks. And I was like, I've not got any, so I'll get some flat Coke or something and put it there. And I ran the race and I came 10th, but everybody ahead of me was Kenyan or Japanese, and so I go across the line, and Tim Crosby, who's head of athletics Victoria, goes, and I said, have you ever heard this? Oh, Max, it's not too bad. He goes, congratulations, Rob, you're Australian champion. And I'm just like, Tim, I'm not Australian, don't you? And he goes, doesn't matter, mate, you've been here long enough. I'd been there long enough to get picked for the state, eligible, and so now later on that day, so I get, proper, men's marathon Australian champion, it's literally one of my proudest possessions. And I am walking down the streets in Sydney and I get a phone call from the head of Athletics Australia, who congratulates me for coming 10th in an IAAF gold race and asked me, did I know what that meant? And I was like, well, it's going to be on telly, isn't it? I might get my name in that list.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, if you come 10th in an IAAF gold race, you qualify automatically for the Olympics.
Jesus
and I'm
Christ.
I was like, you what? I was like, so does that mean I've qualified for the Olympics? And he goes, well, so I'm going to the Olympics. And he goes, well, some of our runners are trying to get the qualifying times, and if they get the qualifying time, will you consider we'll pick them, but if they don't, would you consider changing nationality? And I was just like, yeah.
Straight away.
Absolutely no messing, I'd consider changing nationality if I could go back there now. Anyway, that doesn't, without the Olympic carrot. And so as it happened, they got the qualifying times, and I came 5th in a 3-horse race, and so didn't go, but I'm thinking about getting the Olympic ring tattoos, but only getting 3 of them done, and then we have the other one in dots. And then I was coming towards the end of my visa. My former employer wanted us to stay, but I knew that we wanted to come back and try out the UK, and I came back for a job that I thought was going to be great. It turned out not to be what it was painted. And I'd wanted to run across America for about 15 years, and I'd sort of sent an email. I think I found it was about 10 years to the day that I set off, and it was asking a guy who'd written a book about running across America. I just read it and I was like, this is fantastic. And then basically he was like, well, you should definitely do it, and life gets in the way. And when we moved back, and suddenly I found myself without a job because we were quitting this, my missus just said, why don't you just do the America thing now?
Jesus.
And we were just like, right, let's go. And at this point, it had morphed into, because originally I just wanted to run across it once, which is like a mammoth achievement. There's probably only about 350 people who've run across. But I wanted to do something really big for charity, and so I was like, right, let's do something unique. And eventually it came to me that no one had done the Forrest Gump route, and I thought, well, I will set off and I'll at least start it. One person had done the second leg, and in the middle of planning this, I read, you're going through, you're scrolling on the news, it goes, man completes Forrest Gump run, and I'm like, no, you are kidding me. I just read I got all the planning in place, but he'd only done the second leg, and I was just like, right, if I'm reacting like that, some other person is going to be reacting like that in the world, and if I want to be the first person to do it, I've just got to go. And we worked out which day the Forrest started his run on, which was September the 15th, 1979. and you can work that out from clues in the audio. And so it's September the 15th of 2016. I found myself in a barber shop in Mobile, Alabama.
No, that's a funny one, that, because I saw the picture where you just had the haircut done, and it's such an outrageous haircut to get, but it's so
I actually
on topic.
want that as my normal haircut now, and then people just look at me going, "Does he know?" It's not that far divorced from Phil Foden, really.
Oh,
is it,
yeah,
so just need to have a little bit more of a slap down at the front, you know.
But yeah, it's like the whole story is incredible, and obviously the time that you did it in, and to not do it with the sponsors that some people get. Like, I'm pretty sure you'll have heard of Hardest Geezer, guys running across Africa at the minute. He started out with very few sponsors, but like, look at the ones who've got on board now.
Yeah.
You know, with
I'm one of the 140 people that Hardest Geezer follows, so
I'm
chuffed with that. Yeah.
Claim to fame.
Yeah,
like,
he's a nice guy.
Yeah, but like, honestly, to be able to do it, fund it mostly yourself, I can imagine, and you know, just push through it, even though, like, I heard you say you spent, like, you were on your last legs in terms of money and that.
Yeah.
So I want to get kind of into the logistics side of it. So in terms of the planning, how long did that take? And then in terms of the estimated cost that you thought it would be, what did you think that would be?
Well, in terms of the sponsors and stuff, like, sort of, I never meant to do, like, I fully intended to get sponsors, and so, you know, you write the letters and everything like that, but not being that social media savvy at the time, you know, sort of, and I come from a background where I find it really difficult to ask for stuff, you know, like, sort of, if I went round yours now and I was dying of thirst and you go, "Oh, do you want a drink?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm all right," you know, and I'd be sitting there going, "Why didn't you just say yes?" And so I was still fairly confident by the time we finished the first leg. We would get there, and we got some good publicity in LA. But it never it never seemed to, like, sort of, you know, and I reckon what it was, and, you know, I'm not taking any credit for Hardest Geezer here, but maybe now sponsors have seen Solo Beardy Madman doing a big, long run might actually not be that bad a punt, because I had a feel at the time, because my goal was so big, you know, like, sort of, it's the biggest single run that anyone will maybe ever do on a landmass, you know, sort of, you know, certainly biggest in a single country. And people probably just thought, he's just not going to do it, is he? You know, like, sort of, he's not got a big sort of backup network, you know. And what happens if, like, sort of, you know, he's like a proper wild card maverick, and we sponsor him, and then he comes out and says something unsavoury. So we'd saved enough money to put a deposit down on a house, and so we're like, right, that'll get us across to the ocean. That was my athletic goal. So I could say, I've run across America, and we got there. He said, and on the way back, you know, sort of, I'm sure it'll be fine, won't it? You know? And my goal wasn't to run until I ran out of money. It was to run until I was too tired and went home, just like Forrest. And that's why, sort of, it was I wanted to be an authentic tribute to him, you know, so it was basically not, you know, he didn't, when he got up from his porch in the morning, you know, fair enough, he was the head of the Bubblegum Shrimp Company, and he probably wasn't struggling for cash, but he certainly didn't put much logistics in place. He just got up and went, and I thought, if I'm going to do that, that's the way it is. And so we left with what we had. We decided to buy an old RV because we figured it's lost all its value, you know, so we will have it. If we're hiring one, we're going to be losing 4 or 5k a month, you know, so we just struggled till we got to the other side, and we didn't want to spend our house deposit. Remember, we wanted to spend about a fifth of it, you know. Jesus. And we then, bought that thing, huge 30-foot RV, just myself and my girlfriend in it, you know, and she'd be driving this, and we bought the big one because we thought, sponsors are going to come on board, we might be able to get like a physio, because I knew that this is going to be tough and everything like that. And even though I wanted to be an authentic start, I had no problems with it being a cushy finish. You know, going down the route, because there's no way I was going to do it with just myself and Nadine.
And
or
then
was I?
That's how it ended up, isn't it? Like, and that's what I love about it, though, is that even though it didn't pan out exactly the way you thought it would at the start with bringing sponsors on board. The perseverance to still drive through it, and also credit to your now wife and Dee for sticking by it, and also saying, you know what, let's spend the money on this. This is your goal, and allowing you to do that. And
she took a massive risk, like, we didn't have a nipper then, and so, of course, it maybe makes it slightly easier, but it was still a huge thing, what happens if I'd have got, wiped out by a car and I couldn't work after that, and then we've got literally nothing sort of to get by with, and like, she was the only person. I'm sure, like, some of my mates thought, oh, the mad sod, he's probably going to do it. But she was the only person who I think actually really knew what the real end goal was, because I was cautious of going, I'm going to do this, I'm going to smash that. There's a lot of people who come out and very loftily publish sort of their goals in a different way. And that put too much pressure on me, so, like, fair play to them for having the guts to do it. But again, like, sort of Forrest didn't say I'm going to end up in the middle of the desert. And so, obviously harken back to the same thing, like, sort of I'm from a single parent family background, sort of whose mum sort of died, and sort of, wanted to make her proud, and that was just exactly like sort of Forrest. And so similarly, I wanted to be humble about it. Even though sort of some of the times when you were just like, going through the desert and like there being an incredible sunset, you wanted to be anything but humble. You wanted to be like, look at this.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well that you bring your mum up, because I read in a Guardian article about she'd said to you just before she died to do one thing that makes a difference.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if straight away that was your thought, that I'm gonna do this run that no one's ever done and no one has done since. But like, how did you come to feel about that, and then also think this is going to be my thing that makes a difference?
That was basically what made me prepared to lose everything on it, because so my mum, like I said, we went from a stage in our life where sort of, she was healthy, she had a decent paid job, and we lived in like sort of, not like a big house or anything like that, but it was a new build, and it was it was good, it was a nice sort of family life. And then we went to the point where she got sick, lost the job, lost the house, lost everything, so we were in like sort of council accommodation, and like sort of, she'd still like do everything she could to get me up there. And so I didn't mind, going down to zero, because I've been to zero and I saw that you can work your way back up. But that sort of quote, coupled with the two charities, which were the Worldwide Fund for Nature and Peace Direct, were the two reasons that whenever I was wanting to quit, I was always just like, well, tell you what, I'll start today. And, we'll go to the end of the week. We've got like $60 to get us to the end of the week. Let's just assess where we are at the end of the week, and we'll keep going, because it's dead easy to just go, this is going to like sort of go nowhere. I may as well give up now and use that 60 quid on a one last blowout in the pub, because things can take dramatic turns. You see it in sport all the time, like a team can be 3-0 down at half time and then suddenly come back to win the thing. And like, I chose those two charities, by the way, again for the Forrest connection, because when he's running across the Mississippi, they say you're running for world peace, women's rights, the homeless, the environment, or animals. And those two charities between them, sort of cover all five of those bases, and you realise that how much like sort of women's rights is tied up with conflict, like sort of macho societies, how environmental destruction leads to animals being pushed out, water loss, people haven't come into conflict. And so there was so much intermission to those charities that it was a natural choice to do that. And again, the amount of serendipity in this whole run where you just goes, oh my God, that fits. Like, I was 38 when I started the run, and I was sat in a diner somewhere, and one of the reasons I wrote the book was because I was losing memories like sand slipping through my fingers, and I was like, I had like notes written everywhere and Facebook posts and photos, then suddenly I'd forget who the guy was in the photo, and I was like, I have to get this down in a structured way, otherwise it's gone forever. And I was sat in this diner, and I just thought, how old was Tom Hanks when he started filming Forrest Gump and onto the old Google wrong? And he was 38, and I was like, no way. And like, it wasn't even as if I was like, okay, I know September 15th, and I'll be 38 that year, so we'll make it 2016. It was just because I had to leave that job. And it was just like, circumstances force you in. Like, Jenny left Forrest, employment left me, and then off we went.
Yeah. Back to it after a little mishap from myself, but it was recording.
I'll tell you what, though, on the whole thing about the recording, I absolutely feel your pain, because there'd be a few things, like sort of at the start of the run, I'd like stop to either chat to somebody, check the map, have a wee, and stop me watch. And then I'd go about 400 metres down the road and I'd be like, no way! And I would turn round, I would do the 400 metres, I'd walk back.
Yeah.
Unless it was really quite far, and then I'd jog back. But I'd walk back and then restart my watch. On like the fifth leg, I'd be like, I don't care. And there was once when it shows like how anal I was like with it. We were in Texas, so this is leg one somewhere in like oil country. It's like really quite remote and everything looks the same. So I arranged to meet Nadine like sort of 8 miles down the road. So I get there in good time. Sometimes I get there first, so she get there first. She's not there for about half an hour, and I call her up and I said, where are you? She's like, I'm at the point. And I said, at the point, I'm at the point. And I was just like, just let me check this, because I said it wasn't going to go down the route of, I'm definitely right. And I went, yeah, it looks like I'm not at the point. And I said, can you come and get me? So she comes and gets me. And she turns right at this junction. I'm like, where are you going? She goes, I'm going back to the point. I said, no. I said, I know I've run that far. I said, but I can't not run from where I went wrong to the point. So I've got to go there. And it was getting late, and she was getting mad and stuff. And I was just like, no. I said, I can't have any points on this run where I take a lift. I can take a lift off route and then come back to route. But I can't have any point where someone goes, oh, you run across America. And I go, no, apart from the 6 miles in Texas where we had that argument. So, I'm glad you're up to speed on your technicals now, mate, because it's very frustrating.
Honestly, and the thing with the runs as well, I bet, especially on that fifth leg, where say you've run a mile down the road and then you realise you've not pressed play again. Mm-hmm. I can imagine you just pissed off at everyone in the world at that point.
Because unfortunately, a few years before I did mine, there was another chap, unfortunately also called Rob, who was trying to set a record of running across America. Huge sponsorship, big money resting on it. And he went first, like, sort of quarter of it. He was doing super, super good. Then, I think there's a lot of people in the world who could probably do it for a quarter of it. And then, obviously, the wheels come off. Has a word with everyone in his crew. And they're just like, all right, we're going to blag this. And so he got caught with the RV driving 5.5 miles an hour down the road.
Oh, no.
Wouldn't publish any heart rate data. So I was just like, I can't do that. No. And so that's why I would walk back. And even though I knew I'd done that 400 metres, that's why I'd walk back. But tell you what, towards the end, I'd be like, if I was going to cheat on this, I wouldn't be cheating by half a mile, would I?
Yeah. That's madness, though.
Yeah, I got much more philosophical about it by the end.
Yeah, I guess when you spent that long on the road dealing with all the trials and tribulations that you did, that you get to a point where the small things don't matter as much anymore, and it's just about getting to the end. Because obviously, as well, you had a kid. Was it during the fourth leg, or?
Let's say it. So I was thinking more about the event rather than her being. So the event happened midway through the fourth leg, because I had to come home occasionally just to touch base visa wise. You're allowed a maximum of 6 months in the country at one time. You're meant to spend as much time out of the country as you are in the country, but I didn't have that time, and so I would go home for about 2 or 3 weeks. With people would think, oh, that's nice, little break, but you would come back completely deconditioned to it, and we went out there with the savings, but it was nowhere near enough, and then I had to come home and work like a dog, night shifts and stuff like that, trying to get a bit of extra money. And So yeah, we came home for a couple of weeks, and I ought to say Nadine wasn't with me at that point. I was solo, and went to see Phil Collins in Hyde Park, and
happened.
That's happened after a lot of Phil Collins concerts, I reckon. And so yeah, Nadine was out. I restarted in Chicago and ran up as far as Minneapolis, and Nadine comes out. I go and get her from Nashville. We get the RV, which is based down the road in Tennessee, drove up and reconvene in Minneapolis, head a bit further north, and we're just parked in a truck stop for the night. It's a deserted one. It's just now an empty lot. And Nadine quite often would open the RV door as I was coming towards it. She'd always have a drink for me. And she's standing there, sort of, and, not really saying anything. She goes, "I've got some news for you. I don't think you're going to like it." And I just went, I wanted to make a joke about not having any protein powder, but instead I kind of guessed. I just went, "Baby?" And she went, "Baby." And that was it. But unfortunately, I did like it. She thought that I would be a bit upset about it, because of what it meant for the run. And so I just said, "Right, okay, what's the timings?" She told me what the timings were, and I said, "Okay, we'll complete the third leg, and then we'll go home, and it is what it is." And she was like, "Absolutely not." She said, like, "We'll complete the third leg, I'll go home, you carry on." And so, and like, sort of, I was dead against this, apart from like the little bit in you that, that I was enjoying the run, but also thought about the commitment to the run and to the charities and stuff. It would have been a big run to have done that. It's still over 10,000 miles, but you're a bit like, it's not what, it's not the thing.
Yeah.
And so, when we got to San Francisco, Nadine flew back, and then I went, well, not on my own, first of all. A good friend of ours, Olivia, said, "Right, I will drive the RV. I'll get you across as far as Nebraska, and then I've got to go home." But I was happy with that because that would get me through, like, across the Rockies, through Wyoming, Colorado, and I was like, right, this will be great. And we were driving sort of just towards Utah from the Las Vegas direction when a car smashes into the RV. I wasn't in it. Olivia was turning left, and an old guy around 90 was going to Vegas for his last ever blowout. And it turned out to be that he cut his head and stuff like that, but he'd be all right.
Yeah.
And the son later would say to Olivia he'd been begging his dad to stop driving for years, and then that was obviously the thing, and that was the RV dead until the very end. And me going solo once again.
So, when you went solo, how did you feel about that? Obviously, you'd had the support throughout from your wife, and then all of a sudden you're there with a stroller in front of you. This
was the second time solo. The first one was a lot worse because I'd bought this stroller to actually run across Australia with. I know about Ned. And so I bought the stroller in Melbourne. Never assembled it. I think I actually pushed it around my garage once, and that was it. And Nadine was going home in Nashville, so about half of the way through the second leg, maybe, because we just had no money. It was going to cost too much money to get the RV up through the East Coast, and it would have been a nightmare driving that thing through cities. Nad's hated driving at night and in cities with justification. It's 31 foot long.
Yeah.
And so going from Arkansas into Mississippi, I tore my quad getting into the RV one day. Just like an innocuous thing. I was like, bit sore. Next day, I had to stop running after 12 miles. Wake up the next morning, leg is like, it's like someone's put a cushion under my skin and you push your finger into it and it would be come back like a blancmange. And next day I couldn't walk. Day after that, couldn't walk. When I say couldn't walk, I mean 30 foot to the toilet. Could not do it, had to hop. And on day 3, Nadine due to go home in 3 days' time. I was like, right, if I can't walk to the toilet this morning, I'm just going to book a flight because I can't afford to have 6 to 8 weeks here. Yeah. Maybe this is my moment. I'm not pretty tired, but I'm broken.
Yeah.
So let's just go. And I walked to the toilet. It was a bit sore, but it was all right. I was like, let's go back to where we started, and I will see what I can do today. And so I walked 27 miles. Next day I did 33. Then the next day I was starting to do like run a quarter of a mile, walk a mile, and then I gradually build back up. But 3 days after that, Nadine was gone, and I suddenly had this stroll. I had to get a Greyhound bus back to a place called Jackson in Tennessee and start that day. And I thought, what is the one muscle you don't want to have torn when you're going to be pushing the stroller up a hill? I think a quad's pretty high on that list. Quads and glutes are sort of, both vying for attention there, but generally in runners, it's more your quads, isn't it? But I got away with it. I must have sticky muscles or something, So that was daunting. Second time round, I was sad for Olivia, sad because of the RV, we had insurance and stuff, but you know how those things work out.
Taking months and months to get anything back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just trying to think how long it took us. I think it took us 6 months to get it fixed.
Jesus Christ!
So it was out the game for the whole run.
So was that you camping for that 6 months? Well, camping and probably a motel here and there.
Camping, couch surfing, yeah. And so I would stay in the tent sort of 1 or 2 days a week. I would stay and couch surfing probably like 3 or 4 times a week. And then I would, couch surf would include like going to pubs, sitting down and say, can I put the tent around the back of the pub or the bar? And then they just go, absolutely not. You're staying in my house, which is great. And then about 2 days a week, I would stay in the cheapest motel in town, My only criteria for it was like, I wouldn't pay, I think I had like 70, 80 bucks was my pretty much maximum. Most of the time I'd aim for about 50, 60. And then I'd just read the reviews. And if there was like no mentions of bed bugs in it, I'd be like, that's fine. I don't care about anything else, And but then of course I was going through Wyoming, just as the onset of winter is, and on the side of the highways there, they have huge barricades that are just standing there in the grass and just like, what's that? And it's to stop ginormous snowdrifts coming across the road. And so it wasn't snowing. Well, at that point, I'd got nailed by snow later in Wyoming, when it got down to like minus 19 or, in Fahrenheit, that's -2, but, cold.
Very cold.
And there's one morning where I was just getting out of the tent and I was trying to put things in my bag, and I was basically, instead of having hands and fingers, it was exactly as if I just had no fingers. I could push, pick things up and put them in, and it took me about half an hour to get my zip closed, and I just said, I think my camping days are over.
So you said there you did like a load of couch surfing, and it's because as Brits we shit on Americans a fair bit, and your story is a lot that how good it came out was a lot down to the kindness of strangers in America. So how many times were you like, oh fuck, I don't know where I'm going to stay, I don't know what I'm going to do, and then just some random guy you've just met goes, no, you're staying at mine, I'll feed you, do all that.
At least once a week.
That's wild.
At least once a week. And so I remember once I was in a town called Morristown in Tennessee. That's the state where I went solo, and if it wasn't for the kindness in people in Tennessee, it's every chance I finish in Maine, I get to the second ocean, and that was probably the second crossing was the one I was most emotional at the finish, because I'd come through so much to get there. And I thought that this could be the end, and sort of, that was the only one I cried at when I got there, because I was just like, oh my God. And if it wasn't for the people in Tennessee, of course you cross over into Virginia next, and you're just thinking, it's just not going to be as good as Tennessee, is it?
Yeah.
And people are, and then you're in the cities, and it doesn't happen as much. It happens a bit, but of course in the city, sort of, the kindest person in the world could have just walked past our window there, but you don't know because everyone's got their own busy things. But the slower pace, it all works. And so this town in Tennessee, I booked a hotel that night. I was in not a bad mood. I was very rarely in a stinky mood, but I was quite often in a feeling sorry for myself mood. And I was like, it's going to be so good. Just going to get to this hotel and lie on the bed in my stinky kit, have a bath, watch the wrestling. It's going to be great. And this guy drives past me, he'd seen me early, and he says, oh, God, do you want to stay in mine tonight? And I was like, it's very kind of you. But like, you know, sort of, I've just booked the hotel and I can't cancel it. And I hadn't checked if I could cancel it, to be honest, but I just thought this fella doesn't deserve to have me being a grumps all night, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, well, if you change your mind, I said, I'm going to be coming back this way later anyway. And I thought, 20 minutes, I just thought, what a nice guy. I thought, I'll just go. I'll suck it up, you know. Cancel my hotel. And he comes and picks me up and takes me there. And like, sort of, you know, staying with his wife and like staying in the departed like son's gone to university, like his room, and it's like sort of, you know, all the sports pennants and his trophies, and it's just like so cool. It was like something out of like a sitcom. And so that was great. But just before, I was in the car park of this motel, waiting for him to come and pick me up. This Mustang pulls up with like two stunning girls in the, like I said, the late 20s, and they're just like southern drawl, like, hey, sweetie, what are you doing? You know, and I was just like, oh, I'm running across America. And you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. You got anywhere to stay? And I was just like, yes, I'm just staying at this chap's down the road. And he's like, oh, that's a shame. Like, so you'd be more welcome to stay at ours, you know. So if you need anything, you know, wrote a number down on a piece of paper and gave it across. And I was just sort of thinking, man, if I was single, would this have been like, so first of all, I cancelled the motel, then I cancel this gent. I'm just going to go, I would have actually said to him, as you can understand.
You'll get it.
As you can, no, he would have got it. He would have just got, I'd have cancelled too, I think, you know, but, you know, I stuck with him and, yeah. And, so that's Don Sheneman. Yeah, Don and Thelma Sheneman. And so,
that's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, also probably Nadine, if she hears this, she'll be like, oh, what are you saying?
She knows about the story because I'm stupid because I tell her about things like that, you know. And then she just goes, why are you telling me stuff like this? She just goes, but I didn't do anything. She just goes, well, of course you wouldn't do anything. But now you've told me about it. And I'm like, oh.
Her brain's just not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Moment. But yeah, like, staying with all these people, and obviously you've had all the kindness of the strangers in terms of that. Did you ever have any problems with people along the way? I can imagine after over a year of running, you coming into some arseholes.
Yeah, but so few. Like one of them, you know, ends up tying up in a story like the one we finished there. I was in Spring Green in Wisconsin, and it was like, I don't know, maybe about 35 degrees that day, and like 100% humidity. And I looked at this, I said, right, you can get to this town, and there was some motels there, some were way expensive. There was this one, the room was $75, and I thought, yeah, that's more than I wanted to pay, but that's fine. Call up, you know, it's going, great, can I make a reservation? Don't have to make a reservation, plenty of space. Yeah, I'm just going to go survey, just one person in the room. And they're saying, well, the doubles, but they're all 75 anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And so I get in the vicinity of the place, and I get to this motel. And the lady just took one look at me and just goes, sorry, we're full. And like, I was like, you got like a vacancy sign up there? She was like, oh yeah, I forgot to change that. And I just said, oh, okay. It's just because your vacancy sign's saying that. She went, well, you can't afford to stay here anyway. And I said, sure I can. And I said, how much is the room? And she went, $250. So I just got my card out, put it on the desk like that, and that's absolutely fine. And I had no intention, if she'd have picked it up, I'd have gone, actually, no, I'm not paying her. I went, that's absolutely fine. And she went, I don't want you to stay here. And I said, can I ask why? And she said, I don't have to explain, I don't want you to stay here. I was like, right. I just went out, and there were loads of mozzies about this time of night, and the door was a little bit sticky on the way in, so on the way out, I just made sure it stuck and stayed there like that. And she come screaming at me, and this lady actually wasn't like sort of American. She sounded European, and she comes screaming at me and just said, "Have you not got any integrity in your country?"
Oh my.
And I just sort of said, "Well, for a start, leaving the door open that doesn't really fit the definition of integrity. So I suggest you look that up in a dictionary. But one definition of integrity is don't tell people that you're fully booked when they've called up an hour earlier and you've promised them a room for $75. See you later." And went and camped in the woods over the road, but I was there for about 30 seconds and I took about 8 big mozzie bites. You know, you'd feel these things land on you, you know, like thud. And I was like, I can't stay here. going down the road, and this car pulls up, and they're like, "Are you the guy who's running like down there 25 miles ago?" And I was like, "I assume so." And they went, like, "Oh, where are you staying tonight?" You said, "I don't know, I'm just looking for somewhere to camp now. There's no motels in town. I might ask at the local church, you know." And he went, "Absolutely no way. You can stay at ours." And he said, "There's only one problem." And I was just like, "What's that?" And like, "We're massive cycling fans, and I've been listening to the Tour de France all day long on this sort of thing." They said, "When we get in, like, we are going to be watching the highlights." And I just said, "This is my most favourite thing ever," you know. And so that was one person. A scary one was when I was crossing into upstate Pennsylvania from upstate New York, and I saw this dude who, you know, he must have been about 6 foot tall, you know, like sort of mostly fat.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You know, imagine like sort of a prop forward but taller, you know.
Like a beefcake kind of, yeah.
Beefcake, yeah, but like he had seen better days. And he's bare-chested, tattoos everywhere, skinhead. And if you were going to like sort of stereotype someone, you would put him in the scary neo-Nazi dude bracket, you know.
Yeah.
And he throws this like trash bag across his garden, and just like, fair enough, no problems with that. You know, do what you want, America, you know. And but then this bag hits the floor and rolls over, and it's got legs. I'm like, what the? That's a dog. And I was about like sort of 40, 50 metres away from him. And your brain goes through all these possibilities, and I just thought I should say something to him here, but I'm in the middle of nowhere, and he's massive, and he's probably got a gun, but he's just done that to his dog. Then he runs over and then just punts it in the belly, and I'm like, oh my God. So instantly, I just let fly, like, properly, like, scaredy scouse, swearing. Like, so he's never, I doubt he's ever heard so many swear words in such a short space of time. But then he just goes, "What did you say?" And I'm like, oh. And, you know, and I repeated it, you know, trying to sound as confident as I did first time, but I definitely wasn't. And then he starts running after me. Oh, and I'm just like, yeah, no, literally. And I had the stroller at this point, and so I was just like banging. He's full on sprinting. I had about like 30 metre head start on this point because he'd been walking. And it goes on for about 200 metres, and I sort of just look behind me, and he's stopped, and he's like bent over, you know, gasping for air. And he stands up, and then he runs back to his house, and I'm like, "Why are you running back to your house?
Oh,
you know, you don't, you know, if you're knackered, you don't go, you cheeky swine, you know." Yeah, you know, and then you walk back, and so I was like, oh my God. So I thought, right, before he gets here, I've got to do something. So I take a screenshot of the map, pin on his house, you know, and then I send a photo of that to Nadine saying, if you don't hear from me in the next, like, sort of, you know, 8 hours, you need to direct police to this location to, you know, conduct inquiries.
Yeah.
And so then I get on down the road, legging it, and continue every vehicle that goes past me, even ones that are coming towards me, because in case he's looped around. And I was running the side where traffic would be coming towards me closest, and all it takes is a little wobble. You know, there's a Kiwi guy called Nick Ashhill who was running in Ohio around the same time I was there, and he got hit by a hit and run. And the feeling is that it was a deliberate move, and the only reason they found him alive is that he was on the phone to his wife at the time he got hit. Yeah, exactly. Punctured lung, sort of fractured pelvis, broken leg. He then got sick like 2 or 3 weeks later because he didn't realise like one of the pelvic fragments had just nicked his guts, and so then it just like got a bit necrotic, broke down, and then poured crap into his abdomen. You know, exactly, yeah. And he healed up, and like so 3 or 4 years after the event, he went back last year and finished his crossing, which is so he's like, you know, that's proper grit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, this guy never came. But I was in the middle of nowhere, so of course, 46 hours later, there's still no word from Nadine. And I go to a local brewery in Erie, Pennsylvania, you know, and sat down at the bar having a pint, and I just think, oh, I should message Nads and let her know I'm all right. You know, just sort of thinking, you know, if she's seen that, she's just like, where have you been? Where have you been? You know, and I've been like, yeah, just had no reception. She's like, oh my God, you know, getting that message and then being able to try to contact and just going to go, the number you've dialed is unavailable.
Oh
yeah.
my God. Can't even imagine how she was feeling during that few hours. And then you're just sat there having a pint in the pub at the end of it.
But like that night as well, like I was staying with a tattoo artist in town, couch surfing. But I was chatting to the lads at the bar, wouldn't let me buy a pint. And then one of them went, "Do you want one of the brewery caps? I'll go and get you one." And I was just like, "Yeah, I'd be boss." And like so I was in my bag yesterday, that cap. And he goes back, but he also went to the ATM on the way and just goes, "There you go, it's like $200." And I was just like, "Have you cleared this with your wife, mate? I don't want you going to the brewery and coming back like $300 poorer." You know, he said, "No, it's golden."
That's mental. People can be so kind, and then on the other hand, you have guys like that booting a dog, and you wonder what has happened in their life for them to end up like that. When there's others who will literally, a guy they've just met, give $200 to, and give a place to stay to, and feed, and all that sort of thing. But I want to go back a bit to when you were talking about you cried when you got across to the ocean. When you got to each ocean, each time you made it, did you take time there to sort of reflect on how that leg had gone, or was it almost like right, I'm here, done, next job?
They were all beautifully unique, which I'm glad there was never a poor relation, as in like so the third finish was a bit crap. So the first one was amazing. That was the one I'd wanted for however many years. Nadine was there. It was like, we've done it. Whatever happens after this, we've done it. And I had some school friends there, some work colleagues, and we had a dinner and a Bubba Gump that night, interviewed by the main sort of anchor on KTLA and stuff. And there was a pub quiz that night in the local English pub. And we were in the other room, and I went through to the toilet when the news article was on, and everyone was just like, "It's the guy, it's the guy!" And so that was fantastic. The second one, we'd gone through so much to get there. Money had first started to run out. We had to go solo. I had my sort of biggest injury. It was the first time I'd had days off with injury. Had a bit of tendinitis. A lot of tendinitis on the first leg, but we just managed to keep moving. And my friend Jamie had come out, and he rode the last 5 days with me. So we went from Boston up to Maine together, and it was great to have like a permanent companion on the road rather than just seeing someone down the line. And I'm a big fan of the band Interpol, and they got a song called The Lighthouse, and it's really moody, and you can sort of imagine it being foggy when this, and it was foggy here, and I put it on loop in the last mile, and as I ran past Jamie, he was just like, "You all right, mate?" And I just went, no, yeah, and got to the point, but that's where the chap had finished his, so the same lighthouse that's in the film, the chap had finished his second leg there, so a year or two previously, and the museum committee came out to meet me, and there's loads of articles about him in the museum. They gave me a bottle of champagne. He said, "Right, when are you flying home?" And I said, "I'm not." Turning around tomorrow and keeping on going. Because after the first leg, I had to go home to get my proper visa. Because I wasn't, as I said, I didn't expect to do it. So I only flew out there on a 90-day visa, as in just a tourist one, enough to get that job done. And then came back and was just like, "No, let's do it. Let's have it. Let's go properly."
Wow.
And so then I got to Chicago. Then we got over to the other side, and the third leg finished so. As far as I'm aware, no one's ever run across America 3 times in a year. Certainly, no one's done it since. And we finished this lovely little place called Bandon Beach, because no one knows where Forrest hit the third ocean. You can sort of guess roughly on the map, and so just pick a beach.
Yeah.
And we got there, and then that was just me and Nadine, so no one else there. So it was really nice, and and knowing what we knew about the baby coming and her going soon, it was great. And we just sort of then sauntered down the coast, where we stayed at another old school friend in San Francisco. So that was almost like a little bit of a lap of honour for the third leg,
Yeah.
Then the fourth one was the second time I had to come home to do my visa, because I booked it for I think it was the 18th of December, so I meant I was home for Christmas, and I had to get to South Carolina to get up to New York. And I got to South Carolina on the 17th on my own. So the only leg that I did, apart from a very short section in California, Nevada, all on myself. It's the biggest sort of stint. And I got there on the 17th the day before I was due to fly. Beautiful sunset. And when I got there were dolphins going in and out of the water.
No way.
It's so good. And this guy I just met at the quay, he was like a 15-year-old lad called Matthew, and it was like a Peter Parker type character. He's like, "Hey mister, do you mind if I take your picture?" And I was just like, "Yeah, that's great." And he took these fantastic photos, like, you know, some of the best photos I've ever had of me, you know. And he would eventually come to the finish. 15-year-old, maybe 16 at that time, drove his mum from South Carolina to Utah, you know, because you can drive there then. And he pretty much boomed it out in 15 hours on his own.
Christ.
You know? Yeah, bang, wired. And,
that's class.
Yeah, and so and then of course the big finish was like surrounded by people I love, like sort of some good new friends, including Matthew and his family, a family from Alabama. I first met in Kansas, stayed with them when I had my probably worst injury, and they got me fixed in 3 days, took me to a doctor, got steroid in my butt, and
nice.
And they came over to Alabama too because the dad, Ramey, he took his youngest lad because he said he wants him to come and see this, just say, you can do anything. So when you think, I can't do it, I'm just going to go, this is just some dude. He's not like, you know, he's not been given this on a plate. And, you know, he's just gone and done it. And lucky enough to be surrounded by the Navajo Nation as well, you know, so I had like sort of lots of people, you know, sort of who just followed me from the reservation, and just fantastic runners as well. Yeah. And so we had the crowd at the end. It was the full Forest finish.
Oh, that's class. It's so good to hear. But let's go into because you're a very, very happy, like happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. From what we see anyway. But like when you were deciding to do the run, and you obviously, like you said, you'd saved for down payment on a mortgage, you know, and then you were deciding to do this thing. Did it ever creep in that you were like, oh, this isn't feasible because of, you know, we want to get a house, we have a job? Like, did that ever creep in, or was it always, no, I'm quitting the job, we can use the money if we need to? And
when we started, we were so naive, that wasn't a factor, you know, and so we just like, yeah, we'll spend a bit of money, and then the sponsors will laugh and we'll gamble. And it's like going fishing, like talking about like sort of Geezer before, like, you know, sort of, he's gone fishing, wheels could have come off on that, nobody could have been interested in it, you know. And the one thing is, he's very good at producing funny bits of content and stuff like that, you know, which is really, and he's been relentless. If I was to do something like that again, I would massively take a leaf out of his book. He's done so well there. But he could have done that and like gone, you know, you see people do some things. Somebody was saying this to me yesterday. He says, like, Rob, there's people who've done these things and they're nowhere near on that size. But like, now they're like a reality TV star and stuff like that. He said, are you not bitter? I said, well, no, because I didn't go out to be like a reality TV star. And it's just going fishing. I went out there with the best rod and the best bait and caught nothing. And yeah, if someone goes out with a stick and a thing, you know, of course you just go, I wish that had happened to me.
Yeah.
But I thought that at the time. I don't now. It's so good that it didn't happen. Because like sort of, I'll have none of the people bitching at the end, just going to go, not being funny, I could run across America 5 times if I had a physio and a masseuse and a nutritionist, you know. It's just not really cool, is it, you know? And it was almost adventure in the truest sense, like sort of, you know, I'm not hacking my way across the jungle or climbing an unscaled peak. But these days, true adventures are actually quite hard to find. And I think maybe putting yourself in a position where you are going to the limit of your means is the closest we can get in this first world, you know. And I think there is a market out there, I reckon, for people who just want to go, okay, let's do this. And they go, that's not possible. Just go, we'll see. Yeah. You know, just keep going. Yeah.
Like, I interviewed, God, it must be over 6 months ago now, a woman called Akana Murray Bartlett. She's from Melbourne. And she broke the record for the most consecutive marathons run in consecutive days. So 150 marathons, 150 days.
Is that lady who went from like is it Cairns all the way to Cape York
down to Melbourne? Yeah. So I interviewed her and I spoke to her about Ned Brockman.
Was she Aussie?
Yeah, she's Aussie.
I thought she was a Brit.
No, yeah, she's from Melbourne. She's dead nice girl. But when I spoke to her, I asked her about Ned Brockman because obviously he ran across from Perth to Sydney. but never broke the record. But look at what that did for him in terms of it shot him to stardom. And then she was struggling to still get sponsors on board and was spending her own money. And she was saying it's the most frustrating thing because it's as good, if not better, an achievement, what she's achieved. But it's just gone so unappreciated. And I feel like with yours, your story is probably one of the most underappreciated stories out there, to run 5 times across America and, you know, to all the trials and tribulations that you had throughout it. And then even afterwards go on and do stuff like run across from Galway to Dublin in 24 hours. It still goes that unappreciated. It's like you wonder what else you could be doing to get to that point.
Yeah, but the thing is there's people like sort of, for example, I think I've had more recognition than a chap called Kevin Carr, who was the guy who's run around the world in the fastest time. And I reckon, like, sort of, you know, most people won't know. You just call, you know, Rob Pope. They'll just go, no, oh, the Pope. And it's kind of, they probably don't, but they might go, oh, you know that the guy who did the Forrest Gump run, and goes, oh, yeah, go, that's Rob Pope.
Yeah.
But, like, sort of Kev's round the world run is pretty great, you know, and he did it on his own, like, sort of pushed his own stuff. I don't know how he funded his or anything like that, but, you know, I don't think he's bothered about it. So he doesn't go looking for attention or anything like that, and I think he just went, this, and I've been sort of battling with injury recently, like, so I'm gradually building my way back to almost like a hybrid sort of fitness, because I'm not doing as much running as I was. And I was, certainly at the start of the injury sort of battle, I was a bit like sort of getting a bit morose about it. But now I'm just thinking, you know, God, I had a great run. Like, do you reckon Gary Lineker's upset now because he's not playing for England? He's probably not bothered, but he doesn't have like looking back on it. And I quite, you know, so I've got my thing now, you know, sort of, we eventually bought the house, you know, so, you know, we just did what people do, go back to work and save up. And, you know, I hope I'm in a position now where, you know, sort of, Nadine, like, sort of, their family lost their house when she was growing up as well, so it's exactly the sort of thing. And now we're just like, this is not going to happen to be. And so I've complete life, you know, if I get to that sort of point, you know, sort of, and that's the outcome is that, you know, B can go to uni and, like, sort of, you know, she'll have, you know, a house or something like that after we go. What more do I want after that, you know? So, and I've got this nice little bit of history to, she can even read about it in the book.
Yeah, I bet when she gets started, I don't want to hear about this again. I've heard enough about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know, it's one of those things, isn't it? Whereas I think Russ, Hardy Skeezer, he's gone about it in a way where he sort of acknowledged he wanted to build the following. Like, if you look at his previous stuff he's done, the Asia to London run that he did when I think he was 21 at the time, which is fucking wild. And then he's done stuff like Buried Himself Alive, like the 26 beers marathon and stuff like that. Like, it's all
now we're talking. I will take him on at that.
Oh, go on, let's have it.
You've heard this now, Russ. Right, I didn't know about this one. I ain't burying myself alive, you know. Maybe do like a decathlon, you know. We'll race each other from Istanbul to London, you know, sort of, you know, that could be an even race. We'll the Buried Alive, I reckon I'll duck out of that early, so it means I've got to go hard in this 26 beer run, you know. And so, but yeah, like, so, you know, I've got like a fair few followers, but like, I'm not as active on social media at the moment because, like, sort of, unless I've got something really fun to do, I put snippets on there because people are interested and people are kind enough to message me and sort of saying, oh, how are things going? So I'll put the odd training run up, I'll put a photo of B doing something, you know, and and, like, you know, as I said, like, lucky last year, that was a win. It was on the way back, and I sort of realised that I was lucky enough to most things in life that I've, you know, set out to achieve, I've done. You know, like this America one was like, sort of, you know, unbelievable. But the Ireland one, I was just like, right, I've never run for 24 hours, and I set myself a distance which I thought it was a genuine 50-50 whether I could finish it or not, you know, and so on, because I hadn't been training because I'd been injured. And I thought, right, let's set it, you know, to and if I fail, I'm not going to be bothered, but I want to get to the point where it's on the edge, you know, and I think I made it with 24 minutes to spare. Like, so actually, I've not done a 24-hour run yet.
Yeah,
I just realised that.
Now.
Yeah, God. A year after the event, I've just realised I've still never done the 24-hour race. You know, like, it just depends whether we count the Guinness in the pub immediately afterwards. Part of the race.
We'll count that. You had one before as well, didn't you, in Galway?
I did have one before. You know, there's a little bit of me that still wonders whether if Ireland gets to the World Cup final, whether I'll go back the other way and see if I can get to Galway for the final. But I'll have to have a word with the doc about that first, you know.
Yeah, it's funny as well because I was in Ireland. I was in Belfast last week. Guinness just tastes so much better.
I was in County Clare last week as well. Yeah, I used to do a little bit of cycling.
Mate, because I went over and I'd never understood the thing with Guinness and what people were, crazy about it. Like the 2-part pour and it's got to be this and it's better if like the keg's closer to the tap. And when I got there and tried what, I was like, oh my God, this is.
Well, you'll get some killjoys who just go, it's not. It's the same stuff. And if you're in like a busy Irish pub in town, you ain't gonna get any bad problems with the lines and stuff like that. But even the same daiquiri blind taste test, one from like a beach club in Barbados versus one in a hotel in London, and I just put you in a dark room, it'd be 50-50 which you pick. But even the worst one, it's the surroundings in it, you know. I say that daiquiri on the beach is way better than that one, and it was just one out of a can. Just one out of a can is way better than the proper mixed one in London, and. Last weekend we had a fair few, and normally you'll have a pint of Guinness, won't you? And then go, I'll just get back to my normal beers, but not in Ireland. No,
can't do it. Yeah, we went out, and I was like, I'll have a couple, and then get on some other stuff. Like 8 later, and you're just still going. You're like, fuck. It's just so easy to get down as well. When you got the live music going, everyone's buzzing, singing, dancing, like,
it'll be some place if they get to the World Cup final.
Imagine that'd be quality if they got to Rugby World Cup. Yeah, but so you moved over to Australia as well, didn't you? You were saying, and you lived out there. So what was it that took you out there?
Well, it was actually sort of disappointment with the job as well. It seems to be what happened. To get disappointed by a job and go, I'm going to the other side of the world. And I got offered an equivalent sort of one in Australia by someone who's a lecturer at my old uni. He's a really good lad called Des Hughes. And he always played footy with the students, and he was like proper good. And I just said about this, and I jokingly said, "Have you got this job in Melbourne?" And he goes, "Well, we can't give you that one because you need to be an Aussie permanent resident, but we've got this one. It's almost as good. Doesn't come with a qualification at the end of it, but it pays more." And I was just like, "All right, I'll have that."
Take it.
And so we moved out to Werribee, which is where the University of Melbourne Vet Hospital was.
Yeah.
And Werribee's got a very unfair reputation. Like it was called the shit farm, wasn't it? Because of the sewage works, but it doesn't smell. And we were driving around on the first day, and we were just going, this place is actually really nice.
Yeah.
And we went back recently in January for a wedding, and we stayed in a hotel or apartment complex just by Flemington on the first night because we thought we don't want to impose ourselves on any mates jet lagged, but just get there. And this place had a rooftop pool that looked out onto like the CBD. And we're just sort of swimming in this, looking across and saying to Mrs. going, should we come back? And we're 50-50 at the moment. And the reason, why stems to the original question, like, why are you going? Now it would be for B. So that we like it there, but it would be a big gamble for us. We've got an incredible circle of friends, and it would be awful to leave them, but, your true friends will still be there in a bit.
Yeah.
And we're wondering now whether we go over there for at least 5 years, get citizenship for B, and for us to decide when it's warm.
Yeah.
And if we really like it, we'll stay. If not, then we come back, and then she's got that in her arsenal to work anywhere she wants when she's older.
Yeah, it's that's what I found is. Because I've been away for 13 months in Melbourne. Yeah. Hadn't seen any. Two of my friends flew over in March, saw them for a week, and then my mum came out the week before I came back. And I was dreading coming back because I'd always wanted to leave the UK. Yeah. It was always in my head. I was like, I'm leaving. Came back. First week I was a bit overwhelmed. Since then, time of my life, because you get to see that you forget how good it is.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in one place for so long, you lose what it is and what it means to you. And I've come back and I've absolutely loved it, and I can't complain about anything to do with. Like, I used to moan about the UK so much, and I genuinely can't complain about it because it's such an amazing place. But I'm also ready to go back because the quality of life is better.
Yeah,
you do earn more money and you do have a better work-life balance. So it's, you know, it's one of those places, especially for a kid, that I feel like the system's built to have a happier, healthier, fitter life sort of thing.
Yeah. And for us, it'll depend really, because we're gone past the age of easy visas now.
Yeah.
And so my only real paths are back via the uni, or if I can persuade somebody to pay me enough, which I won't complain if that happens, you know, to get over the threshold to come in. But yeah, it's one of these. You said like you're on a down, and I said about England and stuff, and you can see why. And like sort of having lived in different places, I can compare it. So I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, Britain's shit. You know, it's shitter than it was, 100%. But it's still really, really
it's
good.
Great.
As you said, you realise that when you come back, you go, oh, it actually isn't rubbish, you know?
Yeah, because you have to take yourself out of the situation to actually reflect on what it is and what it does mean, sort of thing.
And it is one of the things where literally the grass is greener, because when you fly back over the UK, you're like, oh my God, it's so green.
Yeah.
Compared to
rather than just brown everywhere.
Yeah. And so, but if we went back, we'd go back, I think we'd go back to Weza, just because, you know, that athletics club there, they've got a little thing called Little Athletics or Little A's, and just the kids there, they love it, and they're just so well mannered, and you know, and it's that sort of thing. That whole thing is just like when I go there, I want to put B in it, but I'm also aware of the fact that we pick up everything, go to Australia, and then B goes in, she goes, I don't want to do this, and I'm just like, right, right, okay. Well, at least we're here. Yeah.
At least we can enjoy this now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It is such a different quality of life. And then obviously, being in America, did you ever want to move there after the run and stuff like that?
It's slightly tricky for me because, like, being a vet, to go and work in America, you've got to do another exam, and that exam is so general. Like, I'm pretty specialised now at the moment. I do a bit of general stuff, but it's mostly just eyes. But in America, when you do that exam, you need to know everything about horses, chickens, cows, pigs. And I've not done anything with them for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so that would be a tough ask. But there's a few places, big cities. I wouldn't mind Chicago, Boston, Austin, and Nashville. They would be my sort of four biggies. Little towns, there's like loads of them all over the place. There's one called Wallace, Idaho, which is just over the border from Montana. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's got its own brewery in town. If anyone's ever seen the film Dante's Peak, where like the volcano erupts and destroys it, that's actually set in Wallace, and so it was actually called the center. The mayor decided that it was the center of the universe, and he put a plaque on the pavement just going to go, "This is Wallace, Idaho, the actual center of the universe." And so it's just a cool sort of quirk of the town. I saw my first moose there as well.
No way.
And but if I was going to go anywhere, someone says, cut the crap, where are you going to go? It would be Flagstaff in Arizona. The last big town I hit before I finished. But it's also such a haven for runners, and I think it's got like 7 different craft breweries in the town. So
I mean, can't go wrong, can you?
Yeah, running in the summer, skiing in the winter. I don't really ski, but still you could.
You take it up.
I could do a bit of cross country skiing and stuff like that. I just get worried now that I would span a my knee and not being able to run again, and stuff. And so
is that your thing then? Is now obviously when you had B, I remember you saying in one of I think it was the podcast with Chris Williamson.
Yes,
where you were saying about how your mindset changed. It wasn't just about going out for a run, it's avoiding anything that could cause an issue or cause you to be injured or cause you to be in hospital and stuff like that, because you were thinking of the child at the time.
Yeah. So I just didn't, like I said, this is when I was actually in the States and stuff, and so I wouldn't run at night, or if I did, it would give me, like, in the past I'd run at night and I'd get to the RV if Nance was there, and she would go, I've been so worried about you, and I'd be like, why? it's fine. Just running at night. Whereas then once a new beer was on the way, I'd be running along and I'd be like, I hate this. I just got a massive sense of my own mortality, But these days I just try and, schedule it around. Like, I'm the worst morning person in the world, but now I try and get up about 6 and get to the gym and do at least an easy run, if that's easy run day. And then, fit things in, so I've got my day off today, so I've got me running while B's at school,
Yeah, it's interesting as well because you obviously now, I don't know if you're working towards anything or what have you, and I was thinking last night when I was prepping for this about that Tyson Fury scenario where his whole life he wanted to work towards being a world champion. When he got there, that was when his downfall occurred because it was the what in the world do I do next? So the moment you finished the run, what was going through your head at that point and in the next few weeks after? Did you ever have that shit, what do I do now moment?
I was insulated from it because I was tired when I finished the run, but just because we were sleeping in a hotel room with a 3.5-week-old baby because she came out to the finish, and then I was suddenly, this is completely new, and so it was almost like carrying on the run. It's just that I wasn't running, I was doing something else, and then it got like sort of quite a way down the while, and I was saying, like, I'd seen this Facebook post on that group USA Crosses, which is all about people who've walked, or, so if anyone ever wants to do that, it's a valuable source of information. And someone put a post up about how everybody dealt with their depression post the run and the walk. And I was like, I won't get depressed. Lost a house, lost my mum, broke up in relationships, and I'm just, a couple of weeks later, I haven't just got a cough, but I'm... but I'm fine, and I didn't post anything to that effect because obviously some people were struggling there, and 6 months down the line I realised that I was struggling because all the euphoria had gone, and I was just tired with looking after B, and I didn't have that massive thing there, so I went from not having done anything before because I'd done one ultra before I actually started this, and I got injured in it. And so it wasn't as if I said, right, this is the pinnacle of my ultra career is this. I was just there. And it's like sort of if Usain Bolt did the, got his 4 gold medals in the first Olympics, and then afterwards there was nothing there for him,
Yeah.
And so, I've filled my time with other things, sort of, I'm aware that I'm not going to do any of these big things, in that immediate period, but Nadine has recently indicated that she would potentially be up for me doing some more things. So I don't know if that's because she's sick of me, but a little bit sorry for all the coughing.
Sorry, don't worry. If you need to grab a drink, just grab a drink.
Yeah, I think I might get a water actually because I just finished that, and
I've actually got a water here if you just want to grab some of that.
Superb. Actually, I'll pour it in just because if this is a proper cough, it's when you exercise so hard, and you rinse your lungs.
Yeah.
But this was at the velodrome yesterday because I don't do sprinting, and it was full on anaerobic effort. Like, I didn't have a heart rate monitor or anything like that, but I reckon my heart rate would have been up around the 175, 180 mark. I managed to do. I had a really good partner in the team pursuit, and we won that.
Yeah.
But then they had this thing called the Aussie pursuit where you would chase people around the track, and once you're caught, you're out. And I got down to the final 2 in the B final, and this fella, just every lap, he would take a metre out of me, and I couldn't get away from him. But because he wasn't taking huge chunks out of me, it was me at maximal effort for loads of these laps as he just slowly got me. And afterwards, my chest was burning, and I've been hacking ever since.
Oh, I can imagine. It hits different, doesn't it, when you do that first anaerobic session that you've not done in a while. Like I had knee surgery 2 months ago, so I've not done anything anaerobic.
What have you done?
It's something I was essentially not born with, but when you develop your knees as a child, my kneecap developed, instead of developing as one big one, it developed in one big one and one small one. Okay. And the small one was mobile, so it was essentially causing friction on the tendons and ligaments on the outside of the knee. Yeah. So everything shortened there, which pulled the kneecap towards the femur and was then rubbing bone on bone. Lovely. So after years of football and running, it just got to a point where going up and down the stairs was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
So they literally went in, pulled that bone out, did a lateral release of the fascia, and good as gold now.
Boom.
Yeah. Back on the bike and stuff. Did a 30-minute session this morning. Felt like shit, but got through it.
That's the way it works, man.
Yeah.
I'm gradually building my Strava score back to a peak of where it was.
What was the peak of, like, so in terms of like a week on Strava, what was your biggest week during the run?
There would have been ones where it was like probably about 350 mile a week, I reckon.
Jesus Christ.
Well, no, that wouldn't have been a big one. That'd have been fairly typical on the fourth. Like there definitely would have been some ones over 400, I would say. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Got to be up there in like the top 10 on Strava for that week.
Well, certainly in 2017, nobody run more than me in the world, and so maybe Russell get up there this year. Like, so I don't know the distance he's doing. I know it's far, but like sort of, there's only Serge Girard, who's a French guy, who a few years earlier, like he is still the guy who's got the biggest mileage in a single year, which is about 15,000. And in 2017 I did about 12,000. So, and that's number 2. So a bit of a leap to old Serge. But like I said, I don't really see anyone beating him, to be honest. But I'd like to have a go.
Yeah. There's a guy who I follow on Strava called, what's his name? I think it's something Andrew Glaze, and he's run a 100-mile race every week for the past like 80-something weeks.
Savage.
Yeah, and he's the top. I think he's the top 3 on Strava for the most distance run in a year.
Yeah,
the guy's just every single week. The state of his toes, like
it's
they are.
More the fact that like sort of like are they all like proper sanctioned races? Because
most of them, yeah.
I was going to say is the odd one who just goes, "There's no race this weekend. I'm just going to do 100 miles."
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because like the sheer amount of organisation required to find those races and get to them, that's as impressive as the running itself.
It's not just that; it's the cost of it all. The cost of every single race in terms of your nutrition, the cost of the race.
That would be a thing. He might get the race fees free.
Yeah.
I reckon he can probably write the race. If he's not, he should be doing. He could probably write the race directors now and just go, "Mate, come on."
Just as it.
Yeah. Tell people I'm running. Because that would be a thing.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? The feats some people go to. Do you think you're addicted to the euphoria of running?
No, I don't really get it. So I like running and stuff like that. It's just my time. I just like being out there. So I like getting at a pace where I don't have to think about it. So obviously, that varies depending on whether you're out for like 15k like today or whether, you're doing 150k. And I do sometimes like the one good thing about the ultra is the struggle isn't the struggle I had yesterday where, you're gasping for air, which isn't really a pleasant feeling,
Yeah.
And so it's more just that, come on, I can do this. And it's nice to be able to have that time to talk to yourself and go on and do it. Like, I think I like journey running. I like saying, right, let's get from this place to another one. Because I could have done that 24 hours around the track, and I basically just looked at distances that would be, roughly 135 miles, and Galway to Dublin was 136, and so it was like perfect. But, I'm desperate to go across Australia. I've got that story for a reason. That will happen at one point. I want to go from where I finished to the ocean one more time, just so I can get that 5th crossing ticked off. And then, there's, the classic Land's End John O'Groats. But if I did that, I'd do it at least twice. Yeah.
There's a guy, Leon Bustin's just done that. He did it in just under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I had him on the podcast. He was one of the first guests I actually ever did. And at the time, he was doing have you ever heard of Ultra X?
Yes,
company?
Ultra X race is great.
Yeah, like the stuff they're putting together. Like he did, I think, 250k in Jordan.
Yeah.
In the Wadi Rum Desert.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine?
That's a great run. That nice sort of cheaper than Marathon Des Sables as well. If anybody is thinking about whether they want to do Marathon Des Sables, I would say do the Ultra X first. Like sort of, it's a smaller scale, it's less fancy and stuff, but the guys at Ultra X, sort of, I think they know what makes runners tick.
Yeah.
And, I think you could any of those races, whether it's the smaller ones in England and Wales. I believe they just got a new one in America. Sort of, I might have to get my eye on that one, but they're cool. Yeah, so yeah, Leon's the jog was a top effort.
Oh yeah, it was. So, as you've said throughout the run as well, you would come back, work your arse off, go back to work and stuff. When you were going back to work, how did you feel about that? And then when you finished the run and had to go back to work, what was that feeling like? Because I can imagine you were going to work for a reason to leave to go back, and then all of a sudden you're going to work to go to work, and that's that then.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with that at first, or was that always like you kind of just came to terms with it?
Yeah, like sort of, I was doing like little bits at locum. I was working for a mate, which helped, and stuff. But I've got a mate who's serious that all work shit. That's why they have to pay you to do it. So I think you just, as with anything, mate, work is sort of one of life's lemons, isn't it? But you are aware that you got to suck the odd lemon to find an orange. And if I, these people who say, "Oh, if I won the lottery, I'd still go to work," I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't. Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'd find something else which could class as work. It would probably be this, that you could class as work, but isn't actually work.
Absolutely,
Like, being able to do this is like on another, just like I said to the guys, were like, "Oh, why do you do this?" I'm like, because I get to speak to people who would never get a chance to speak to in life, and just like sit down in a pub and just have a chat for what we've been here for, hour and 20 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Honestly, mate. And like, there's some of the people I've interviewed, and I'm like, when I sit and reflect on it, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm like quite proud of that I've managed to sit down with these people and have these conversations.
But surely it's got to be inspiring you to go and crack on and do something big.
That's
now
it,
your
mate.
knees
That's
fixed.
it. That's it. I've said a few times. I think I've put it on record, so I'll say it again. So Port Phillip, what Melbourne's surrounded by. I'm not. There's a cycle race called Around the Bay in a Day.
Yeah.
And I want to run that. And I want to do it in hopefully 24 hours, but it might be a bit more. 150 miles, so it'd be a while away. It'd be a while away, and because it'd have to be at a decent pace. I think you're probably talking about 10 minute a mile or less to get that done. But yeah, that's the long term goal. That's one thing that I do want to get done.
You're going to swim from Queenscliff to Sorrento.
But I have to, aren't I?
Yeah.
Have a pint waiting at the other side.
Yeah. You could get on the ferry and just run around the deck. I think we'd let you off with that as long as you covered the distance.
I'll do that. Get them put a treadmill on it or something.
Yeah,
and just
exactly.
Stay there. But yeah, like that's the big goal, because that's the thing when you speak to people like yourself and Leon and Rakana, it's just like it makes you want to go and do something, because everyone needs that passion thing that they can go after. And at the minute, mine is this: it's having these conversations with people, but also the physical feats. If you don't achieve the physical feats, I feel like you're missing something with that, because you're not allowing yourself to get to that point where you're at a mental battle with yourself, where you could quit, but you're not gonna. And I can imagine on your runs, you've had many moments where you're like, I could just fucking stop right now. And then you don't,
Days that would end in the word day.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly. So that's the big thing that I want to do over the next few years, because, like I said, I've got another 2-3 years left in Melbourne, because PhD's, 4 years long. So got a bit of time to get that done, which is good. So, but for yourself now, what what's the plan for the future? Have you got anything coming up, or
nothing lined up really? Like, so I'm just enjoying sort of running more than I was. I just need to sort of find out exactly what's going on with this knee. It's kind of baffling doctors a bit, sort of. And like people just go, "Oh, dude, you're not injured because I just saw you did like a 90-mile bike ride on Strava, or you were doing like sort of 7-minute miles, the other day," and I just go, "Yeah, no, it's just not right." Yeah. And I don't want to sort of, because say, for example, some of the things I've done take so much commitment. And if I was doing it again, ain't no way I'm going to be financing it. Certainly not a big one. And so I'd want to be fair to sponsors. I don't, so if someone would sponsor me, I don't want them to be paying for a jaunt. I want them to get their, value out of it. And so if I go into it thinking, I'm glad this ain't going to cost me out, but am I going to... I don't mind failing because it was just bloody hard. That's fine. But failing because of a known thing that I thought could flare up. So I'm just sort of biding my time at the moment. But it's making progress, and I'm lucky enough to have a mate sort of who is involved with Liverpool's medical department, and so he's going to sort me out.
That's good.
He might just sort of take someone else's knee from there. You know, one of the players that they sell, they'll just do a quick knee transplant.
It'd be all right, that wouldn't it? Get an elite athlete's knee, like.
Yeah,
wouldn't mind it. But yeah, so the one question I always end on with all my guests is, how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, just as a laugh, you know. Yeah, exactly. And like sort of, the only sort of thing, like sort of, I think it came across. I think people saw on my social media side of things, like I hardly took any negative stuff. The only negative stuff that I ever got was it must be nice not to have a job, or you know, sort of, and who's paying for this? And my mates were very quick to just go, he's paying for it, and he did have a job. He left it to do this, so do one. And so people thought it was honest, and I think I think if people always take me on face value, I'd be happy with that, you know, because generally what you see is what you get. Yeah,
mate, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Just tell everyone where they can find you online and stuff like that. Yeah,
so social media, I'm Run Roblar Run. That's ROBLA, Run Roblar Run. And the website, which is goingthedistancerun.com. And if you would like to get my book, it's available in hardback, paperback, and audiobook. It's called Becoming Forrest. It's the best book ever.
Did you do the audio?
I did.
Oh, mate. Yeah. Got to buy it now with a Scouse accent. Class.
I did it in the same recording studio as Sean Ryder, who was doing his, you know, lead singer out of the Happy Mondays, and he'd go past every day doing his little Sean Ryder walk, give me a little wave, go in, do that. He'd come out half an hour later, I'd be in there for 8 hours, you know, banging it out. But yeah, most people have found the accent not to be a problem.
Yeah, mate, it's class. Well, everyone go follow, and yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Cheers.
Nice one, mate. Hope you enjoyed that one with Rob. Really fun time for me. I had a great time. Thanks to the White Horse in Walton as well. You know, massive thanks to them for opening up the pub early for us and allowing us to film in there as well. We also got time to have a pint afterwards. So if you're ever in Walton, then go down to the White Horse. It's an incredible little place, and I hope you enjoyed that episode. So remember to like, subscribe, share, and also follow Rob wherever you can. And I'll see you next week. Actually, no, I won't see you next week because it's Christmas. So enjoy your Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Cheers.